The human predicament may be seen through the intriguing prism of philosophical pessimism. Not only does this method make us reevaluate our common sense, but it also forces us to face an uncomfortable truth about the universe. This perspective isn't an attempt to promote pessimism. Rather, it is a profound philosophical investigation of the most basic elements of human existence, including pain, joy, and the meaning or lack thereof of life. Philosophical pessimism fundamentally holds that human life is defined more by misery and discontent than by happiness and fulfillment, and that the universe is fundamentally bad. Not that happiness doesn't exist, it's just that there's a lot more pain than pleasure. Notable philosophers like Emil Cioran and Arthur Schopenhauer have played important roles in the development and dissemination of these concepts, enriching this gloomy philosophy with their own distinct perspectives. Many consider the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who lived in the 19th century, to be the progenitor of philosophical pessimism. The concept of suffering in Buddhism and other Eastern philosophies had a significant impact on his work. According to Schopenhauer, the underlying force behind life is a will-blind, insatiable yearning for existence that ultimately results in pain. He argues that our wants and attachments bind us to a life of agony, and that this will is the source of all suffering. He argued that the only way out was to give in to artistic contemplation, live an ethical life, and give up one's will. Emil Cioran, a Romanian philosopher who mostly wrote in French in the 20th century, developed these concepts further. A profound cynicism of existence and the rejection of the assumption that life is a gift are hallmarks of Cioran's worldview. On the contrary, he saw existence as a mishap and an inconvenience, something that disrupted the tranquility of non-existence. He often questions the meaning of life and the existence of freedom in his works, which reveal a deep existential melancholy. Despite living in different eras, these two thinkers grapple with the idea that pain is intrinsic to being human and not an occasional byproduct. That doesn't imply they don't believe in pleasure. It just means they think it's fleeting and pointless compared to the pain that life inevitably brings. Such a view has far-reaching and diverse consequences. A person may come to the conclusion that life has no purpose, a state known as nihilism. However, it has the potential to make us more grateful for the ephemeral moments of pleasure and beauty that we do experience. Additionally, it has the potential to bring about a deeper empathy for the fallibility of the human condition and a stronger will to end suffering in all its forms. The hopeful stories that are prevalent in many cultures, which honor human development and accomplishment, are also challenged by philosophical pessimism. Such stories, according to pessimists, tend to gloss over the existential problems and basic human misery. On the contrary, they argue that we need to face the limitations of our knowledge and the fallibility of human nature head-on. Taking this philosophical position also begs the issue of what it means to bring new life into this world, when Schopenhauer and Cioran claim that life is full of suffering. In a fundamentally flawed world, what are our individual and collective obligations? There are those who find philosophical pessimism objectionable, notwithstanding its gloomy view. Critics say it's too pessimistic and doesn't take people's resiliency and inventiveness into consideration enough. For some, it serves as a sobering reminder that we can't always get our way, and a necessary check on the path to unrealistic optimism. After everything is said and done, philosophical pessimism does provide a grim view of human life. It forces us to see beyond surface-level details and face the grim facts of life, some of which are unpleasant and hard to accept. It may not be the comfort some are looking for, but it does a great job of critiquing simplistic solutions and makes us question how to be genuine in a flawed world. Philosophical pessimism compels us to face these unpleasant realities, which in turn make us reevaluate our values and the reasons behind them. It begs us to take a step back and think about the common beliefs we have about what it means to be successful, happy, and curious. This kind of pessimism isn't just about moping about. It's a tool for critical thinking that helps us see through illusions and confront the truths of life. Artists, authors, and filmmakers that deal with existential dread, absurdity, and the human condition have found a wealth of inspiration in this philosophical approach, which has impacted many cultural and creative manifestations. Literary and cinematic works of Franz Kafka and Ingmar Bergman, who depict the inherent difficulties of life and the sometimes fruitless quest for meaning, reveal the impact of philosophical pessimism. Rather than being a philosophy of doom, the resonant pessimism in art and literature serves as a call to be genuine. Confronting the masks we wear and reevaluating our objectives and decisions are two of its main demands. From this vantage point, philosophical pessimism is really a sign of intelligence, a solid grasp of reality and its significance. The way we tackle social and global issues is also affected by this viewpoint. Philosophical pessimism may teach us to be foolish in the face of environmental destruction, political unrest, and social inequity. The intricacies and difficulties of human behavior and motivation may be better understood with its help. There is a meeting point between philosophical pessimism and existential and ethical concerns over the long-term viability of our ways of life and the consequences of our decisions. It encourages a more modest and maybe more sustainable way of life on Earth by recognizing the limits of human power and the ubiquitous character of pain. There is still reason to be hopeful, even in philosophical pessimism, despite its critical posture. On the contrary, it changes the place where we could look for optimism, moving away from naive optimism and toward a stronger hope that recognizes pain and suffering, but yet seeks to find moments of satisfaction and tranquility despite these limitations. This kind of optimism is not based on the expectation of a better tomorrow, but on the conviction that our actions, regardless of how they turn out, are meaningful and valuable in and of themselves. Accepting the constraints of our human existence allows us to have a more realistic and grounded outlook on life, according to philosophical pessimism. As we look for the purpose and beauty in life's fleeting and imperfect situations, it reminds us to treasure the relationships and times that really fulfill us. Overall, philosophical pessimism provides a complex and nuanced vision of human existence, despite its problematic nature. A more complete understanding of being human in a complicated and often cruel environment emerges as a result of the introspection it engenders. With this perspective, we may tackle life's challenges with poise and dignity, having a clearer idea of what we're trying to accomplish. Philosophical pessimism not only illuminates the shadowy sides of human nature, but it also forces us to reevaluate our individual and communal values. This philosophical tradition does more than just point fingers at the here and now. It provides a framework for comprehending the ever-present difficulties of human existence and calls for a serious reevaluation of the purpose of life. An ethic of care and accountability is one of philosophical pessimism's most far-reaching consequences. Given the pervasiveness of suffering, this perspective proposes that our moral obligations should revolve on alleviating suffering wherever feasible. All sentient creatures and the environment are included by this, not just human interactions. A healthcare ethic, welfare ethic, animal rights ethic, or environmental stewardship ethic that prioritizes the alleviation of suffering is a powerful framework for shaping public policy. On top of that, philosophical pessimism questions the present value society places on development and progress, which are often lauded as absolute virtues. Pessimism raises the issue of whether human actions really improve our well-being or rather prolong cycles of want and frustration by emphasizing the inescapable misery and disappointment that comes with them. In this age of fast technological development and consumerism, where more is usually better in terms of material wealth, this criticism takes on added significance. Additionally, this philosophical position provides a critical view of joy and satisfaction. It posits that genuine happiness does not come from amassing a plethora of financial possessions or pleasant experiences, but rather from deeply engaging with reality, flaws and all. Being able to gracefully and wisely face life's obstacles, rather than resisting them in vain, requires developing characteristics like resilience, acceptance, and awareness. Furthermore, philosophical pessimism affects how we see independence and freedom. Recognizing the limits and restrictions that come with being human, makes us reevaluate what it means to be free. The ability to recognize and imaginatively work around constraints is more indicative of freedom than the power to accomplish anything we choose. Rather than focusing on emancipation from outside forces, this complex definition of freedom emphasizes personal growth and change. Adopting a pessimistic outlook on life might help one realize how fleeting it is, and how important it is to live each moment to the fullest. It stresses the importance of lasting connections, honesty, and purposeful effort over fleeting pleasures and superficial praise. Even with a negative outlook, this change of perspective may bring about a more satisfying and stable existence. Consequently, philosophical pessimism encourages a deep and maybe life-altering engagement with reality in addition to providing a serious assessment of human existence. It encourages us to live in clear-eyed acknowledgement of reality, while aiming for ideals that reflect the whole range of human experience. And it pushes us to discover depth and significance in a world that is flawed and constrained. Last, but not least, philosophical pessimism gives us a bleak picture of humanity, but also helpful pointers on how to be better people. In facing life's limits and pain head-on, we learn to appreciate the little moments of connection and beauty, to be resilient, and to tackle existential and ethical challenges with responsibility and reality. Looking at life through this philosophical prism allows us to not only make it through, but also get a richer appreciation for the human experience in all its complexities. As a school of thought with profound roots in literature and philosophy, philosophical pessimism often uses striking images and moving quotes to convey its core points. A famous line from The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot reads, "Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act falls the shadow." This line of poetry reflects the gloomy philosophy of the time, drawing attention to the seemingly insurmountable distance between our dreams and the cruel truths of life. This idea is also present in Samuel Beckett's works, which portray the human condition in all its absurdity and misery. Beckett depicts people in Waiting for Godot who are ensnared in an endless cycle of hoping for a rescuer who never comes, someone to give purpose to their life. One of his characters says, "We are on earth as it is in heaven," highlighting how human expectations pale in comparison to the ideal or the divine. The intellectual foundations of pessimism are clearly expressed by the multitude of quotations provided by Schopenhauer himself. To compare the feelings of an animal engaged in eating another with those of the animal being eaten would be to test the assertion that enjoyment outweighs pain in this world, or that they are at any rate balanced, he wrote, providing a stark illustration of his view of the fundamental nature of existence as one of conflict and suffering. The razor-sharp language of Emil Cioran, another rock of philosophical pessimism, honed this view. He states in his book, The Trouble with Being Born, that the fact that life has no meaning is a reason to live, moreover, the only one. By arguing that the lack of intrinsic meaning allows us the flexibility to invent our own objectives, however transient or illusory they may be, Cioran turns the nihilistic despair on its head. Since the Enlightenment, the idea of progress has governed Western thinking. Philosophical pessimism critically deals with this notion. Though he was not a pessimist in the conventional sense, Friedrich Nietzsche had a significant impact on this school of thought and communicated this criticism well. When asked about the linear perspective of history as a tale of progress, Nietzsche famously said, "What is the truth but a lie agreed upon?" This critical outlook on generally acknowledged facts and the supposedly positive change they bring about serves as an essential foundation for the gloomy assessment of modernity. Discussions around environmental and social sustainability nowadays go further into this viewpoint. A gloomy perspective is used to analyze the dogged quest of economic development and technical improvement, which are often praised as signs of progress. Straw Dogs is an incisive criticism of humanism and progress written by ecological philosopher John Gray. Gray argues that, contrary to our boastful accounts of progress, human activities have often resulted in environmental degradation and expanded misery. So, philosophical pessimism makes us doubt what we thought we knew about the universe and ourselves. It forces us to face unpleasant realities about the limitations of human reason the certainty of pain, and the inflated sense of self-importance that permeates most human pursuits. According to Schopenhauer, to live alone is the fate of all great souls. This isolation, he argues, is not only physical, but also intellectual and psychological, stemming from the brave rejection of reassuring illusions about the essence of existence. Finally, philosophical pessimism gives us a more complete picture of life by making us face the deepest concerns about purpose, destiny, and meaning, even when they seem to provide a bleak outlook on the world at first. Instead of leaving us despondent, it encourages us to actively participate in life by teaching us to appreciate the flaws for what they are and to live with empathy and realism, a strong framework for negotiating the intricacies of human life. Philosophical pessimism encourages us to live authentically and courageously in the face of the unavoidable hardships of existence via the wisdom of its insights.